Hi, this is Yanam for Team Guardians of Prey at GSG in Charlotte, North Carolina. This is my Blaster deck profile post G-BT11 Demonic Advent. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, most of you guys should know what this does. It's Wingle Brave on hit whenever it's boosting a Blaster unit. If it hits a unit, then you can put it into the soul and search out a blaster. This card is still really valuable just because it almost guarantees that you're never grade stuck provided you're riding a blaster. And the deck runs 18 blasters with 11 blaster blades, so chances are good you're going to be on a blaster at some point during the game. Moving on to the grade 3 lineup, Blaster Blade Exceed. The new third Legend deck ace card. It's pretty much the staple for the deck. It's skill on ride or on call. You can counterblast 1, retire a grade 1 or greater rear guard. That skill comes in really handy for getting rid of pesky units in the early game. And then it has an on stride. Whenever it's striding a saber unit, you can counterblast 1, search out a Blaster Blade. So that allows you to, I usually like using it to search out Blaster Blade Exceed so that I always have stride fodder for next turn. I run 4 of these. And then, new style Blaster Loot. This card makes the deck run. It used to be with the old versions of the deck that whenever you ran out of Blaster Blades, you're pretty much out of gas and couldn't do very much. New style Blaster Loot, when it's placed on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle, you can choose a Blaster Blade in your drop zone, put it into the bottom of your deck, and that unit gets power plus 5k. And it also has, whenever you have a Alfred or Blaster Vanguard, you can use it gains plus 5k shield and intercept, so it's pretty much valuable. It's one of the most valuable grade 3s you can call in the deck. Plus it's a blaster, so if you don't happen to get your Exceed out, you still have a blaster to use most of your skills with. For Blaster Blade, this is the main engine for the deck. It's been that way ever since G-BT06, and Counterblast 2 whenever it's placed on Vanguard, retire any of your opponent's rear guards. Counterblast 2 if it's placed on Rearguard Circle, kill a grade 2 or greater. And up until this set, the interesting thing is the on-play skill has never been more valuable until now, when you've had all of the counter charge that the deck has provided with it, including but not limited to Gancelots. So not being afraid to use the on-play skill at the right moment makes or breaks your ability to use the deck. Blaster Blade Spirits. So they're the 10k with the skill. So whenever it's placed on Rearguard Circle from the deck, you can counterblast 1, choose a grade 2 or greater opponent's rearguard, and retire it. It's also considerably more valuable now that the counter charge is there, and you can have that early game defensive pressure because it's a 10k vanilla that has an actual skill attached to it. It does have an issue of if it's on Rearguard Circle and it's attacked for any reason, it'll die at end of turn, or at the end of the attack, so it's hard to guard, but honestly with blues you shouldn't really care so much about that. And then Favorite Pupil Light and Dark Blue. This card is also really good for the deck. It gives you early game, and it's great for early game, it's great for mid game, and it just creates an offensive pressure and multi-attacks for as long as you have Blaster Friend Barkles and Flogels in your deck. So the important thing to know is that whenever it's boosted by Barkle or Flogel, it gains the red text that says Counterblast 1, put this unit in soul. At the end of the battle, you can search your deck for a grade 2 blaster and call it to Rearguard Circle. And then Flogel and Barkles both have skills that allow you to take advantage of that as well. Moving on. Then we've got 4 Blaster Friend Barkles. whenever their Blaster Blade enters specifically a Blaster Blade enters the same column as this, if you have a Blaster Vanguard, you can countercharge 1. This allows you to regain some of the resources you used, especially from Lose, especially from your Blaster Blade exceeds when you want to kill something. And it's just generally good for keeping pressure going. Wingle U. This card fills an interesting role in the deck. It not only has unhit whenever this attacks a Vanguard or is boosting an attack that hits a Vanguard. That you can search the top 7 cards of your deck for a Blaster Blade, and you can put it into your hand. If you put a card with Blaster Blade and its card name into your hand, you can put it into the soul. So generally, it's there for decent on-hit pressure. It also allows you to generate soul for cards that we'll get to later. For Laurel Knight Sisylis, this is your stride fodder for the deck. You shouldn't have as much issues with being able to stride, but because Blaster Blade Exceed and because both of your grade 3s have really good rearguard skills, you may not necessarily want to stride with them, and you may want to use them as rearguards. So Sisylis just opens up your plays for various other. It just gives you another avenue to use. For Maiden of Divine Spring Land, it's the blaster-specific PG. If you have a grade 3 blaster or Alfred, you can Soul Blast 1, and you can use your PG effect. It's really nice because it means that you're not losing that one card in order to PG, so it gives you more offensive options in your hand. So then we've got Floral Paladin Flogel. It's the other half of the Blue Blaster Engine. So this card is probably the card that makes the deck as strong as it is offensively. Whenever, at the end of the battle that a unit named Blaster Blade attacked the Vanguard, you may counter blast 1 and choose one of your Blaster Blade unit rearguards, and you can stand it. So it's really powerful during early game. It's really, really stupid strong during late game when you have all those triggers from your extra drive checks, and it's just really, really. I have closed out so many games before my opponent can stride, just for the sole fact that this thing is that strong. Alone the deck kind of really needs soul, so being able to put this into soul for 3k to a unit is really handy. Plus, you won't always have Blaster Blade called from a Lu skill. Lu has the ability to give 3k to whatever it calls out. Forgot to add that part. But your Blaster Blades might be on the field already because of Alfred or because of other reasons, so giving it 3k allows you to hit for numbers on your opponent's Vanguard just in case. 2 regular crit triggers. I run 10 crit in this deck because I feel that I'd rather be able to hit critical triggers and close out the game faster than to hit a lot of draws and be able to defend, especially since I don't need to use as many cards in hand to defend with the Liens and my G-Guards. I've been considering swapping these out for Encourage Angels, the stand trigger that gives power plus 3k on call, but it's kind of, at the moment, not really set in stone. Margol, 2 of them, because the deck still kind of needs that extra push in terms of hand advantage. It's really efficient, yes, but it still needs that little bit of push to get it there. And it also has, when you put it in the soul, you can give a unit 3k, so giving it to your Blaster Blade is still pretty useful. And then 4 of the Fighters Collection heal trigger, they work with Mascol, and they allow you to drop a grade 1 or less to draw a card. I run the Mascol, so it just seems to be helpful in general situations. Alright, so now we're going to my G-Zone. I run 4 Gancelot Peace Saver. So the interesting thing about the G-Zone, as I've been noticing, is that Gancelots and Alfreds are so strong that every other stride just kind of feels lackluster by comparison, because you want having the ability to have critical +1 and countercharge +1 and the drive +1 is just generally a valuable asset at any stage of the game. And if you have the resources to spend on it, Alfred's really useful. But moving on, so 4 Gancelot Holy Gancelot Peace Savers. So basically what they do, like I said, it's whenever this unit attacks, if you have an Alfred or Blaster Vanguard, it gains, you can countercharge 1, drive +1, critical +1. If you have one face-up card in your G-Zone, it gets critical +1. Sorry. And then it also has a skill when it's in the G-Zone. If during your turn, your Blaster Blade rearguards get resist, which is really handy if someone, say a Kagero player, keeps trying to pop your Blaster Blades. I run 4 mostly because 4 seems useful. You don't. If I ever run into the situation where I don't have rear guards, this card is such a powerful, just sort of card to allow me to get tempo back, because I can still get my search off of Exceed, I can still hit for a critical, so my opponent still needs to perfect guard it, and I can still do a lot even if I don't have any other resources. So, and once Link Joker comes out, which the new Link Joker set comes out in a month or so, this will become really handy, since if you don't necessarily feel like running Alfred for the stride. Can't remember its name offhand. Alright, so then we've got Divine Knight King Alfred Holy Saber. This card is whenever you have an Alfred Blaster Vanguard, you can counterblast 1, discard a card, and choose a Blaster Blade, give it Twin Drive. So basically it allows you to get quintuple drive for pretty much the cost of 1 extra card. So realistically you're still plussing by 4, so it's just a slightly more cost heavy but more efficient, well, more effective Gancelot. Overall, you're just kind of pressure out your opponent with your strides. 2 religious Holy Dragon Religious Soul Savers. They're counterblast 1 on place. You can, if you have a Blaster Vanguard, you get plus 5k to 3 units, including Vanguards, or if you have 2 blasters in your soul, it gets critical +1. It's just kind of there for purposes. Like I said before, the G-Zone's so intensive on these 8 that you almost would never stride these anyway. You would almost never stride anything else anyway. The one exception to that rule, Divine Knight of Condensed Light, Obvious Avalon. This is the GB8 for Royal Paladins. So this is the one GB8 that is. This one GB8 is only really valuable in blasters at the moment, but it does so much work for blasters just because you have so many specific plays you can make off of it, and even if you don't, you can search out your blaster engine, get multiple attacks on top of the triple drive, you can get your blaster lose, and you can do so much with it. Anyway, getting to the skill. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, counterblast 1, you can search your deck for up to 5 cards, call them separate rear guards, and they get power +4 until end of turn, and this unit gets critical +1. So this, I built this deck to try and accelerate into this as much as possible. If you're stuck on Gancelots, you might have trouble with that, but by and large, after a couple of G-Guards and a couple Alfreds, your opponent's not only really low on cards in hand to defend with, but this card's just really good in the early, and if your opponent still needs a little push to go over the edge. And then you've got Little Great Sage Marin, Soul Blast 1. Search your deck. If you have an Alpha Blast Vanguard, search your deck for a grade 1 or greater, and call it your rear guard and get power plus, or shield plus 5k. So I tend to use this to thin my deck of my grade 1s that I don't necessarily need anymore, namely Wingle Youth after it's used its purpose. And just kind of, it's a good 36k shield for most purposes. And then we get to the oddball of my G-Zone. So I run one Divine Knight of Godly Defensive Rain, mostly just because I built this G-Zone on the assumption that I'm not going to have a field. If I'm not going to have a field, or if I'm not going to have soul, or if basically for whatever reason I don't have the resources to go into the G-Guards I normally would go into, this card is pretty much always going to be live, because it gives me that extra 5k shield, and that can come in really handy. Break Flash Assault. I almost never G-Guard into this because I don't like using the Counterblast, and I almost never have the Counterblast to spend, but I also very rarely have rear guards to use this with. But it's just generally there for giving myself that extra 5k for each rear guard, and that can help make guarding a lot easier. And then I run two Holy Beast Divine Maskall, the card that ties with this Maskall here. Again, like I said, my main goal is to try and accelerate into the Olbious Avalon, so I've gone into games where I went Gancelot, Alfred, and then double Maskalled into whatever, into blocking even a 16k shield, but it allows me to get to that GB8 so much faster, and it allows me to push my opponent over the edge when they're not necessarily expecting me to be able to GB8. So that was my blaster deck. Let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching.